Welcome everybody to Sharing Soulful Stories. And today I am here with the beautiful Nisha Moodley. Welcome, Nisha.
Oh, Joe, thanks for having me. And hi,
Yay.
everyone.
Hi, yes. And I'm just going to let everyone know a little bit more about you. So Nisha is a women's leadership coach and the founder of Global Sisterhood Day. She integrates healing modalities such as breathwork and family constellations with health and executive coaching to support her clients in becoming more effective, courageous, heartfelt leaders in their lives and work. Nisha works with ambitious women who feel deeply called to serve our world and to do it without sacrificing their relationships, well-being, or our planet in the process. She has been a coach for over a decade, leading mastermind groups, online courses, and over 30 retreats. Yay! I'm so excited to have you here, Nisha. As one of the very lucky people.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
That has been on one of your retreats. I feel very privileged because it was beautiful. I've been opening all of these. We're having a conversation about spirituality. And the first question I have asked everybody is, what does that mean to you? What does spirituality mean to you?
The word that's coming to me is intimacy. So to me, spirituality is intimacy. It's connection with myself. It's connection with life. It's connection with the person in front of me. It's deep, intimate connection. I think we think of intimacy as being connected to sexuality, and it certainly can express that way. But I actually see intimacy as just deep presence in the present moment, which doesn't require that we close our eyes and draw inward, although it can. But that we are just present with what is here now. And to me, that is spirituality.
I love that. No one else has used that word. So I'm so loved that we have a new word involved in this conversation and various descriptions of spirituality. And what I would love to ask you next is, has spirituality always been part of your life, or has there been any type of trigger event that introduced you to spirituality?
Well, actually, it's funny because my instant reaction was no, it has not always been a part of my life. But in a way, it has, and it's been more of a meandering, wandering journey in and out. I grew up, I'm mixed race, and so I grew up with two very different cultures, my father's side, my mother's side, and my families culturally were very, very different. My mother's family was not especially religious, not at all religious, really. I don't ever remember, we never went to church except for, I think one of my aunts got married in a church, but that was it. We didn't really talk about God or, religion at all, even though my mom's family kind of identifies as being Anglican. It just wasn't like a part of our daily life, really, a predominant part of our conversations. On my father's side, my father's family is Hindu, and my grandmother, my father's mother, was very devout, and so with her, I engaged in a lot of song and prayer and ritual. And so it was really beautiful for me as a child. It was like this sort of mystical, special, thing that really felt like it was very bonding and really connected me to my grandmother and connected me to my family and connected me to my culture in a way. And also, just with all of the different gods and goddesses, the different deities, like it just felt like there was so much to explore and so much story and mystery. And I loved singing. And so it was just this kind of very rich, multifaceted experience of a religion to me. And it did really have me feel very connected, although I couldn't have explained why perhaps at the time. It definitely created a sense of deep connection. Then I, grew older and became a teenager and felt for the most part very disconnected. Although I will say my best friend's mother introduced me to Reiki and angels and sort of New Age spirituality, or what we call New Age spirituality, when I was about 11, 12 years old. And by the time I was 14, I was, trained in Reiki and was exploring that world. And so it was just this very interesting sort of, I would save all my babysitting money and go to it was called the metaphysical bookstore, go to the metaphysical bookstore and buy angel cards and crystals and, be sort of dabbling in and exploring that world. And that also had me feeling very connected, but also going to my father's mother's house and, practicing these like thousands of years old traditions and rituals, or at least they have some connection to these old traditions and rituals. And then I became an older teenager, and all of that fell away. And my emotional eating really kicked up in a major way. And it had been with me for my whole life. I think it was really my coping mechanism from my parents' divorce when I was 3, and just kind of what I did when I was stressed is I ate a lot. And interestingly, it was a breakup in my early 20s from my boyfriend at the time, who I was living with, that sent me into yoga, right? So I was like, oh, wow, I am eating to cope. I need something else. And I decided I would instead get addicted to yoga. So I did. I treated yoga like an addiction. But fortunately, I had a really incredible teacher. It was just, call it luck, call it fate, call it destiny. But I wandered into this yoga studio by my apartment in Vancouver, BC, and met Shakti Mai, who became my teacher. And she was very much devotional on the yogic path and really held the wisdom stream of yoga. And so through, going to the studio and practicing, kind of addictively almost, or devotedly, but there was definitely an energy of like, it's going to be this or pizza. I felt that deep connection once again. And that really was where the anchor dropped for me in my life, was in my early 20s. And I haven't since strayed so far from that deeper connection and that deeper yearning really to access a state of deep connection in my life. It's not to say that I'm always in it, but just a commitment to devotion and desire to kind of reconnect over and over has been alive in me since then.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. I think there's a couple of people in this series who have found yoga was a real turning point when they became addicted to that path. Love that. So I'd love now, though, within that spiritual story, as it's unfolded from that moment when you found yourself choosing something over your eating, to replace your eating. I love that. What highs and lows stand out for you? Share your spiritual story with us. Spirituality.
Oh, yeah. I think that in many ways, my devotion to this deep, intimate connection with myself and life has grown through the trials of life, so through the time that I went through a divorce, that was really deeply rooting. Through, after my divorce, I was in a 5-year relationship and was sort of an on-off relationship. And when we separated, that really catalyzed my deep, devotion to connection, to intimacy in my life. Becoming a mother, has really catalyzed that for me on deeper levels. Both because of the just rawness of being a mother. It's just such a raw, you have this child and it's like your emotions and your hormones and, where one ends and the other begins is quite blurry, with this little being. It's like they're their own person, but they're so part of you. And it's just such a raw experience. And in that rawness there, for me anyways, have been both highs and lows. And really, both out of necessity to have time and space and connection for myself and with myself, but also just out of knowing that is so integral, to my being able to show up for my child, to not lose it, in the times that it's really hard, which isn't to say that I never lose it, right? to build the muscle of learning how to come back to deep presence and steadiness, in the moments where parenting is so full on and intense and challenging. So yeah, I feel like in all of those, it's almost like the divorce was a high and a low. The breakup was a high and a low. Becoming a mother was a high and in a way a low, because these are the times where it was like they rocked my world. Those moments, those experiences rocked my world. And so much good came out of being rocked, so much beauty. Like I would not trade those experiences for anything. Which isn't to say that I think everybody should have that relationship to their hardships. I think sometimes we can look back on our hardships and be like, that just was awful, But for me, these things that since that time have occurred as lows, also for me, really occur as highs in that, again, just so much good has come out of them. So those are a few that really come present as you ask this question about highs and lows. And another for me, again, interestingly, occurs as a high and a low, just producing Global Sisterhood Day for the first time. It feels like it kind of wrung me out. It was like all of my imposter syndrome, all of my who am I, all of my, feelings of like my limits and capacities and ability to lead and ability to hold space. And all of it was so tested and it was so challenging, my patience, like working with a team of 30-ish people, my patience and my willingness to kind of go with the flow and pivot. Like it was so challenged. And also it was such a profoundly awesome opening experience. So it's interesting. I love this question because I'm really seeing how for me, the highs and the lows, like the highest highs have such challenge in them, and the challenge have such high points to them.
I love that. I love that you've opened up this idea that the highs and the lows are not necessarily separate. The highs are the lows, and especially parenting. I feel you there. Like it can feel at times we don't have permission to share the lows in parenting, that it's all supposed to be, I need to be so grateful for this child that's turned up in my life and is now my master teacher, to be honest. As you say, trying to stay in that moment without losing it. It's seriously deep breath stuff.
Yeah, it's so true. And of course, I'm so grateful to have this little person in my life. It's like, I can't even imagine, not having him. It's like he's always been here in a way. And at the same time, I fantasize about getting on a plane and going on a vacation by myself, and, I have girlfriends who don't have kids and have these, wonderful experiences. I think, oh, that sounds so amazing. And, maybe I'll have my time for those things too. And also my devotional path right now includes motherhood and showing up for this little person every day.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that and adding that. That feels really wonderful. My next question for you is, which I'm really curious to hear from you actually, is how do you weave spirituality through your day? How do you bring it into your life consciously?
Oh, I love this question. So I think about the rituals of our day, the things that we do perhaps consistently. So we could also call them the routines or habits of our day, and building in a sort of ritual energy into those routines and habits, to me, is about bringing presence to them. Again, coming back to intimacy. It's like I can have a morning routine, that includes like having a shower and brushing my teeth and brushing my kids' teeth and doing the breakfast thing and changing a diaper. That's a routine. But if I can create an element of ritual around all of it, all of a sudden it's helping me to feel a deeper connection to my child, a deeper connection to myself, a deeper connection to my home, a deeper connection, to God or spirit. And just by bringing deep presence, all of a sudden it feels like my routine routine feels a little bit more like a ritual. It doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, changing diaper was the best part of my day, but I'm not like suffering or kind of robotically, numbly going through it. So for me, just, yes, there are the routines of my life, and I have my morning ritual, which is dramatically abridged since becoming a mother, but it still has some shape and form, and my evening ritual. And, another thing for me is just like sitting down and having lunch every day, just making sure that I don't skip a lunch. I'm not like rushing through. I make sure that I have something that feels really nourishing. Like that is an important ritual. And to me, that is spiritual. Like that is a spiritual practice, having lunch, eating it, enjoying it, savoring it, eating it without distraction as much as possible, just like being with the food. To me, that's spiritual. And so I think of it in terms of these, like, the routines of our lives and the things that we sort of do as habits. And also, can I, when I'm pouring my cup of tea, can I watch the water, watch the steam, like take a moment and just be present while I'm doing that. I can have the tea and just kind of like, glug, 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 or I can have the tea and pay attention to it. It's maybe not a tea ceremony, which would be lovely, but it's ceremonial in that I'm present in that moment. So for me, it is both adding a deep presence and a sort of ritual element to my routines, and also consciously creating those routines, right? Being really intentional about, if I don't plan to be intentional about my lunch and eat something nourishing, then I'll be, I'll do what we all do and rush through it or skip lunch or whatever. So there is devotion in that practice of choosing to have that routine and choosing to commit to it and show up for it. But also I always look for like, where in little moments can I draw more pleasure, more connection, can I savor a moment and stretch the time out a little bit more? And to me, that is like the ultimate way of infusing spirituality into our days. It's not just when I'm on the yoga mat or when I'm sitting down to pray, but actually in the moment when I'm changing a diaper and I decide to like, look into my child's eyes, or play a little game, or the moment that I'm in the middle of rushing and I'm feeling stressed out and frantic. And I just go, you know what, I can do this. I can do this frantically, or I can do this calmly. And I choose calm, just those little moments of, I'm not gonna go check Facebook right now. I'm just gonna sit.
Oh, I love that. I'm actually going to bring more presents to the next time I pour my own tea. I think that was really, really wonderful, because it feels really accessible. And as you say, that, how can I be more present in each moment? And you mentioned right there at the end that choice, that conscious choice to, I could do this frantic or I could do this calm. I still have to do the thing. I have to do the thing, but I can choose how I show up for it. And I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. And it changes everything. And I think what happens so much in like modern society is we carry so much tension in our bodies around everything, or around a lot. It's like we're doing something, but we're thinking about what we have to do next. We have these big, long to-do lists, and we are 5 minutes late getting in the car. And so we're freaking out the whole way there, and just like tension. And then we say like, oh, I really need to meditate. I really need to go to yoga. I really need to. And we have these New Year's resolutions or whatever, to do these things that we know are really good for us. But meanwhile, we just build tension and build tension and build tension. And it's not to say that we don't need to spend an hour on the yoga mat or spend an hour meditating. I think those things are so important and valuable. We all have our different practices, but whatever our practices are so valuable to us. And can we look for just ways in each moment to unwind tension, to be a little bit more present and soften our minds, soften our bodies, soften our hearts, just let ourselves be here in this moment right now, intimacy with life, like allowing what is in this moment to be, and just being here with it instead of resisting and fighting it so hard, then when we step onto the yoga mat or into the meditation, it's not because we have to, fix all of this tension that we've been building up for all week or all year or for a decade or even all day. But instead it's like, ooh, I'm already in this state. Let me go deeper. Let me have even more connection, even more sweetness, even more depth. And, I don't know anyone who's perfect at this, unless it's somebody who has like no responsibilities other than just meditating, which is lovely. So I say this as a student myself, as someone who is constantly finding myself building tension in my body and in my mind, and then going, okay, and every once in a while I manage to catch myself and say, oh, wait, here's an opportunity. Take a breath. The line at the grocery store isn't going to go faster because I'm tense. The person in front of me isn't going to drive faster because I'm annoyed. Yeah. So turn the music up, turn the tension down, and just enjoy what's here.
Yes, I love that. What a fabulous takeaway. How can I enjoy what's here any more than I am right now? So beautiful. And my last question for you is, what advice might you have for somebody just opening to the idea of exploring their own spirituality?
So, once an emotional eating coach, always an emotional eating coach, maybe. So I mentioned that I struggled with emotional eating for years. And maybe the part that I didn't complete is that I really, through yoga and through deepening my connection with myself, really, and therefore having access to deepen connection with food, I really healed that pattern of compulsive emotional eating. And then I was really passionate about, like, how does this work? I want to help other people. And I was really passionate about nutrition. I studied nutrition, and then I worked with women, supporting them to overcome overeating and compulsive eating, emotional eating. And the focus was never on perfecting what they were eating, and it certainly wasn't on controlling their portions. It was on actually developing a relationship with life, a relationship with ourselves, and a relationship with food that allowed us to discern when it was time to stop eating, that allowed us to discern what food to eat and what not to eat. And honestly, it sounds like a complex to get from, compulsive eating to a place of being able to eat intuitively. But in a way, it was as simple as savoring their food. And so for people who want to explore spirituality, this is maybe an unconventional inroads, but we all eat food. Well, I think most of us eat food, probably the vast majority of people watching this eat food. And every time we eat can be a meditation. Every time we eat can be a chance to connect on incredibly deep levels with ourself, with spirit, with the earth itself. And so just to kind of give a little the science nerd in me loves kind of explaining a little bit of like the mechanics of this. But when we slow down and we chew our food, we savor it, really. So we just chew it more, we're smelling it, we're savoring, we're just enjoying it. Like, we're really enjoying it. Not enjoying it like I just shoved a bunch of cookies in and, that was what would give me pleasure, but I didn't really taste them. I didn't really savor them. I'm not talking about, I want that, shove it in. I'm talking about savoring, really tasting, enjoying your food. What happens when we do that is we shift out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, into the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest, right? When we shift into a calm, grounded state, which we can do through meditation, we can do through just taking a deep breath, literally just taking a deep breath signals to our mind and our body that we're safe. Because if you or I had a bear knocking on our window right now, we wouldn't go, out there, we would go, right?
Yeah.
And that shallow breath, part of that stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze. And that's helpful when there's a bear knocking on the window, because we need to move fast, figure out what to do, right? If my toddler runs into traffic, boom, I need to stimulate that sympathetic nervous system so I can run into traffic. But that isn't a calm meditative state. And what happens is we do that all day long. Doom, 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 doom. Emergency, emergency, emergency. But really it's email, Facebook notification, call from mom, text message from the kid, something like that, right? So actually, when we chew our food and savor it, when we take a deep breath while we're eating, we're telling our bodies and our minds, I am safe and everything is okay. And the energy comes out of our minds and out of our arms and legs for all that thinking and running and into the center of our body. And we're able to digest our food more. We get more nutrients out of our food. And that creates this positive cycle of connection between our gut and our brain. In other words, it is literally establishing a deeper biological connection with ourselves. And energetically, spiritually, it's establishing a deeper connection with our intuition. Gut feelings, right? Our intuition, part of that is establishing this brain-gut connection. And just by treating our eating as a meditation, I'm not saying anybody has to all of a sudden start eating Instagram worthy salads or, perfect green smoothies, but just your next meal, chew it, savor it, derive the maximum pleasure from whatever it is that you're eating, and just see what happens. See how you feel. Is if we just treated our eating like a spiritual practice, we're deepening our connection with ourselves in a very real, tangible way, in a way that can last beyond that meal. We're also deepening our relationship with the earth, because that's where our food comes from. And through deepening that connection, we are deepening our spiritual connection.
Oh, what a beautiful suggestion. And you're completely right. Nobody else has offered that advice. So I love how varied that is, and how, as you say, as far as I'm aware, most people eat food. So no need to commit to doing it for the rest of your life. Just try it out for one meal.
Just try it at the next meal. Exactly.
Love it. Oh my, that's so fantastic, Nisha. Thank you so much. And I want to just ask you to share, for anybody that's interested in getting to know more about you and your work, and Global Sisterhood Day, perhaps, where it is they can find out more.
First of all, I love hanging out on Instagram. So people can find me on Instagram at Nisha Moodley. I'm also on Facebook under my name. And my website is nishamoodley.com. That's the best place. And if people sign up with their name and email, then I send emails out with my musings and invitations to events and retreats and so forth.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I will put all of those when we send the video out. That is amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all that you've shared and all that wisdom and your time. So I'm really grateful that you've been here with me.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And I love being with you and being around you. So this has been a true pleasure for me.
Thank you. And I can't wait to share your story very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.